Hello, guys and gals, me Mutahar, and one thing that we probably shouldn't stop talking about is Jeffrey Epstein. Now, for the last few weeks, I would actually say the last few years, one of the most intriguing plots regarding a human trafficker, a convicted human trafficker, a dead human trafficker, the dead human trafficker's partner, and that human trafficker's relationship to some of the most powerful people on Earth have been brought into question. Now, some would probably say, guys, it's long over. It's done. No, it's not actually. When I was a kid, one of the things they taught us in school was like Watergate. And Watergate wasn't even, I would say, close to as intense of a scandal as this. Because this kind of a scandal really shows that, for most people, obviously we all want to see individuals who harm children or anybody, just human beings in general, put behind bars. But more importantly than that, if that person is facilitating tons of people to, also harm a bunch of individuals in this crazy elite, world that they have, right? Something they often just talk about in like science, like Hollywood movies or like some crazy shit. That needs to also be stopped. Now, I want to just kind of recap where we're at, ladies and gentlemen, to give you an idea of how wild situations have become. Back in February of this year alone, the Attorney General of the United States, basically the top cop in the country, Pam Bondi, went out and said, that Epstein client list is sitting on my desk right now to review. And, this is a actual campaign promise. I don't want you to ever forget, by the way, that this is the entire, party that wanted to drain the swamp of all the bad stuff out there. Now that people in their party are asking them, hey, can we actually drain the swamp? Nothing seems to be happening. Now, I want to start off by saying, obviously, I think that everybody from any side of the aisle is pretty much implicit in this list. I think there's a lot of people, both on the left and the right, who are actually involved in this. There's enough photos with good old Clinton as there are with Trump. So I don't want to make this like a big political issue. If there are people in the top that are the elite that control the world, that have allegedly done some really bad things, I think it's worth exposing that. And if exposing that means we tear the world to the ground because nobody needs to know this information, otherwise, we should just burn the world to the ground. I think that's a pretty normal, healthy way of looking at things, okay? The world should not hinge on the backs of victims in this story. Anyways, next, in February 27, 2025, the entire Department of Justice revealed a bunch of evidence about Jeffrey Epstein. So immediately, if you go over to this page right now, which is fully available, the actual AG released the first phase of these Epstein files. And a lot of the influencers walked around the White House with these big-ass fucking binders talking about transparency. They walked around with binders consisting of all this information that we will look through right here. Now again, these influencers, some of them may not actually be pressing this issue, but this is just first phase. We were expected a second phase. We were expected maybe a third phase. We were expected full transparency. So if you look inside the actual evidence list really quick over here, this is actually all the evidence, digital and general, that the government recorded. So in some cases, you have actual computers like this Lenovo Tower, these Mac desktops, and obviously, should we be entitled to the contents of this information, provided that content isn't CSAM, something that would be illegal to distribute? Obviously, I think we should. And of course, there's more situations, more things that they found here. Amongst the other piece of evidences that existed the entire time too, that we all basically knew about, were these flight logs. About a year ago, I looked at these flight logs myself, and I want to just preface this by saying just because people's name is in these flight logs, which a lot of powerful people, I believe Trump included, is actually in this list, it's not indicative of any criminal action. Just because I guess elite people share their private jets or sometimes fly together, this list was not indicative of anything bad. I just want to make this an abundant fact, okay? I want to be as objective on this shit as possible because it's important. Next thing that was released was this contact book, and a lot of people in the media dubbed this the Little Black Book. And that just because your name is in Jeffrey Epstein's contact book isn't necessarily indicative of evil, right? Again, he knew a lot of powerful people, okay? A lot of people he networked with around the world. Now again, the nature of what his connection with some of these people are is in question. And that's one thing the government, I believe, doesn't really want the people to know. Of course, the next is the masseuse list right here, which is all redacted. Obviously, I imagine every single masseuse on this list might actually be a victim, okay? Now, what's wild about this masseuse list is the more and more you look into it, a few weeks ago, even Trump came out and said that Epstein apparently stole young female workers from his Mar-a-Lago resort. So it's just wild to me to see all of these things lining up together. Again, nothing here is necessarily, I guess you could say we're looking at a lot of circumstantial stuff, but obviously when this came out, this kind of like statement, I think a lot of people were really shocked. Like, what do you mean young female workers, right? Like, how young? All right. And first off, why is he poaching from your organization? How close are these two people that Epstein is out there just grabbing these young women from one of his, like, chief resorts? It's insane to think about, right? One would imagine that this is probably like, if you really extrapolated it, you're almost looking at, like, maybe some first-tier network into, like, human trafficking, right? Again, if you were to look at it in the most like intensive ways. But that's really where people's want of transparency comes from, right? Why is it that these guys ran on this campaign promise that said, yeah, we want to drain the swamp. We want to fucking reveal who's out there harming the actual innocence of the world. And when, it's time for that check to be cashed, nowhere do they want to accept it. And the thing is, obviously, this is the government, and I want you to kind of look at the government as like a corporation. You're all basically a part of it. You pay taxes into the government. You're a shareholder. In some ways, some shareholders may be more powerful than others, but every single one of those people, the taxpayers, the people who make up the government, because it's a conglomeration of the people, should at least get some actual transparency when it comes to the investigations of one of the most evil people on the planet, or used to be on the planet. Now, of course, as we all know, the beginning of July came by and the FBI literally just declared that there was no client list. So obviously we went from, okay, the client list exists and it's sitting on my desk, to now we have no client list. And even Pam Bondi was like, hold on a minute, I said that I had the files. I didn't know exactly if I had a quote unquote client list. So, okay, fine. Maybe she like missaid some things. And of course, people were questioning what was actually happening. Like, what was there a list or was there not a list? But of course, the more we went into it, there were people allegedly thinking of quitting the FBI, like revolting from their party, because they didn't expect this situation to blow up the way they did. They thought that maybe there was going to be some transparency. So of course, then a few weeks later, President Trump comes out and basically says that maybe this case is a scam. Maybe it's a hoax that those Democrats are organizing. Maybe they put things in these files.
Overly interested in it. It's a hoax that's been built up way beyond proportion. I can say this, those files were run by the worst scum on earth. They were run by Comey, they were run by Garland, they were run by Biden, and all of the people that actually ran the government, including the auto pen. Those files were run for 4 years by those people. If they had anything, I assume they would have released it. The whole thing is a hoax. They ran the files. I was running against somebody that ran the files. If they had something, they would have released. Now, they can easily put something in the files that's a phony.
And I want to start off by saying that I really think if these files release, both those Republicans and those Democrats and people that are not even aligned to these parties are all going to get some level of exposure because, like I said, this was a huge network of some of the most powerful people in the world. When you're that powerful, it doesn't matter what side of the party you're on. You're all playing the same fucking game. And that's why I really think that it's not just the Republicans not releasing it, it's also the Democrats that didn't release this shit as well too. If you really look at it, both sides are really just scared of what's in these files, or what happens if the information here comes to light. At this point, I think the Epstein files probably needs to be like a War Thunder a thing, just so we can have some level of leakage come out. And honestly, I really think that's the only way these files are actually going to come out. But the other thing about these files releasing now is I think for most people, they will not believe if these files actually did release like today, that nothing was tampered. I think we're at this point where obviously there's some expectation of real tampering going on in this entire story. So obviously we went from the files exist to they don't exist to now it might be a scam by the other party. So I don't know exactly what's going on here, but this is by far one of the worst cover-ups I've ever actually seen when it comes to the government trying to hide this. Now, one of the big things about this story was the Epstein jail footage. Now, you probably have seen this footage. It's like over like 10 hours of allegedly like raw footage that the government dug out from the actual DVRs at the prison that Jeffrey Epstein was at and released to the public. Well, the cover-up is so bad, ladies and gentlemen, that you, with just your computer, can disprove the government's, assessment of this being real footage. So inside this FBI memorandum that we have over here, this is one thing that the feds released alongside this transparency. So these are files relating to Jeffrey Epstein, but what's most important over here was the FBI released what they claim to be relevant footage. And of course, in some cases, they released a non-edited version, what they claim the full raw, and then the enhanced video, which would be video file 2. We're not interested in video file 2 if it's modified. We would be interested in what the government claims to be the full raw video. Now, full raw in this case means that you went to the actual recording system, you pulled the video file off of it, and you just presented it. And the way that we can prove this is through device metadata. And I'm going to show you how to do that. You don't have to trust any article or YouTuber like me to tell you. You can do this yourself, and I highly recommend you do, just so you can verify the facts for yourself. Now, obviously, the government says that the Epstein died by suicide. It's further supported by this video footage from the common area of the special housing unit, also known as a SHU in prison, which is where they put some of the most important prisoners at, okay? Some of the most rowdy ones, the ones that they're really watching for. So Epstein was housed at the time. The DOJ general explained in 2023, anyone entering or attempting to enter the tier where Epstein was located would have been captured by this footage. So remember that very carefully. This footage is supposed to be the entry point of the SHU. If this is going to be the apparent only sole source that you can dig into if you want to see who was walking in and out. Now, you've probably seen all the memes already of like, fucking people AI generating Agent 47 and all that crazy shit. But we're about to look at the real raw footage. So here inside the system, I've actually got the actual video file, and the video file is probably around 21 gigabytes in size. And of course, if we just watch this together really quickly, this video footage is, again, just apparently the actual camera capturing the inside of what appears to be, the entrance to the SHU. So you can see the background of this prison, you can see the entry points here, and so on and so forth. Now, obviously, keen observers looked carefully at this, and they had seen that there was some footage that was just missing. The camera, completely connected or, skipped a minute. And according to Pam Bondi and the people who had answered for this, they had said there was just a part of the system where, every night there's, a minute where the footage stops and then it restarts. Kind of like a mechanical thing. Now, that's almost believable, until, of course, you actually start digging through the footage yourself. So one of the things you want to do with these video files is pull out metadata. Now, assuming you're underneath Linux, you can do this with Windows or Mac. Generally, you need a few tools. You need things like FFmpeg, you need things like Gawk, you need things like Media Info, and you need exiftool, right? Exiftool being the most important of these. So as soon as you have the video one right here present, you can basically do a full metadata dump. So if I open up a terminal over here, what I can do is type in the word exiftool, and then of course, I think it's -A, space capital G1 U S, video 1, and then I want to get out the exiftool full.txt. So this creates a file on my system that I can pull up and actually pilfer through to get all the information from this exif file. Now, to make this a little bit easier for the audience to see, we're going to pull out what's the most relevant of the stuff through a command known as grep. So using commands like grep, I can pull out things like creator tool, software, toolkit, and because we know from past videos that Adobe Premiere was caught in, we'll just give this an enter and we'll see exactly what got pulled out. So for instance, you started to see things like Adobe Media Encoder, which is a dead giveaway that this project was at least rendered from Adobe's Media Encoder tool. Now, of course, we can go even further and see if there were other artifacts or multiple videos stitched together, which is where the big claim actually comes out from. So using the same exiftool tool as well, you can actually type in this command, exiftool-x video 1, and then basically get this XML file exported from it. Now, of course, you can read through this XML file all you want, but we'll dig out the relevant things via grep again. So using this grep command, which is grep-n capital E xmp dm ingredients and then rdf-li, we can start to see that there were multiple times where this project file was created and it was closed, We can see numerous times, of course, when this project file was actually saved in this instance. And of course, we can see that this was obviously under Adobe Media Encoder. But the big smoking gun in this situation, ladies and gentlemen, appears to be these two stitched files that came out of the artifacts. So you can see 2025, 522, and you can see two different times here. So this appears, at least in this case, that the government did not give us the raw footage. They gave us two fucking files stitched together. And so now you know how to verify this for yourself. Now, according to the information provided over here, the actual metadata through the ingredients showed that apparently around 2 minutes and 53 seconds didn't actually make it to the release, meaning the raw actual file had 3 minutes that we've never seen in the exported release that the government provided. So what happened in those 3 minutes? Do we fucking know? Did somebody go into the shoe, kill the guy, and then leave? I mean, these are questions that are worth asking. The government failed to cover this up so hard that anybody with a computer and basic terminal know-how can confirm this information for themselves. So if you think believing the government now, or at least, this is why you shouldn't stop talking about Epstein. This is why you shouldn't stop mentioning it. Because not only is this one of the worst cover-ups, but it's also one of the most insulting cover-ups that I've ever actually seen in regards to one of the most evil guys out there. So one of the things about this was obviously when people looked into it, this is from like CBS, they actually looked into the claim that this camera footage showed the entrance to the shoe. So according to CBS News, the entrance to the cell as well as the primary entrance to the shoe are actually off camera in the same direction, meaning that there's no way to tell from that video if he went to the cell or exited the shoe. And they provide a diagram where, again, they show what they're actually talking about over here. They show what could actually be the blind spot. So according to the experts, just before 10:40 p.m., an orange shape is seen moving up the stairs leading to the Epstein's tier. The report says, through review and analysis of the shoe video footage, witness statements, and Bureau of Prison Records, the OIG determined that at approximately 10:40 p.m., a corrections officer believed to be Noel carried linen or inmate clothing up to the L tier, which was the last time any correctional officer approached the only entrance to the shoe tier in which Epstein was housed. So again, the video forensic experts over here who reviewed that footage, again, by CBS News, were pretty skeptical about the interpretation and suggested that that shape could be a person dressed in an orange prison jumpsuit climbing the stairs. So yeah, there are some serious questions to be asking over here. Because again, the more people look into this video and the more questions get raised, ultimately you can't really cover this up, okay? It's out there for the world to see. We've already assessed and looked through the metadata. We've already looked at every frame possible, and there's still more discrepancies than what we just started. And again, according to a report from, I believe this is 2023, June 2023, this investigation and review of the BOP's custody, care, and supervision of Jeffrey Epstein. They even mentioned the limited available video evidence, so recorded video evidence from August 9th and 10th for the shoe area where Epstein was housed was only available from one prison security camera due to a malfunction of MCC's New York's digital video recorder system. I want you to remember, this was a pretty high-profile prison, right? Like, it's just convenient that you have one of the most prolific criminals, one of them in your actual, organization, and somehow your security systems are just fucking up. So basically, inside over here, what they talk about was obviously the camera. The available camera captured a large part of the common area of the shoe and portions of the stairway leading to the different shoes tiers, including Epstein's cell tier. Thus, anyone entering or attempting to enter Epstein's shoe tier from the shoe common area would have been picked up by the video camera, which it kind of does seem like we have something based on that one blip that we were just looking at. The OIG reviewed the video and found that between approximately 10:40 on August 9th and about 6:30 on August 10th, no one was seen entering the Epstein cell tier, which now I guess could be a little bit debatable. So look, at the end of the day, right, the footage seems incredibly problematic. It does, because, if there was ever a reason to look at conspiracy theories, this would be it, right? And this is a party that has pretty much profited off of the most insane conspiracy theories. This conspiracy theory, on the other hand, is actually not that insane, okay? Because, again, there are so many discrepancies that just off the top of anyone's head, every normal person would be questioning what's been happening. Now, when it came to the cameras, they said that all of these issues came from, again, broken cameras, broken problems of these cameras that just existed for apparently quite a long time too. Which, again, makes you wonder that if these were long-standing issues, why even move them to that prison or have these issues addressed in the first place? Like, come on now. This is an actual serious case that you should have taken care of. And they handled it like they were just some random fucking country. This is the United States of fucking America. If anyone is an expert on imprisoning people, it is definitely the US of fucking A. That is for goddamn sure. Now, of course, what is left out of Epstein? Obviously, there is one person that is still connected. Epstein's right-hand gal, who's still alive, but serving a sentence. Somebody known as Ghislaine Maxwell. Now, because of these Epstein client lists not existing, some even wondered, man, should she be in prison for a crime that I guess doesn't really actually exist? But no, if we can actually look more into, Ghislaine Maxwell, she really was the right hand of Jeffrey Epstein. Allegedly there was a lot of women that, were kind of brought in by her to Epstein. So she is, I would say, as complicit in these, disgusting crimes. I believe she's as complicit as somebody like Jeffrey Epstein. So in a normal, healthy, civilized world, no one would want her to be freed. So of course, looking further into what's been going on, she had actually started talking to the Department of Justice. Now, people wondered that, oh my God, during this entire thing, if she's talking to the government, maybe she could say whatever the fuck she wants to say and get out. Maybe she could clear out Trump. You wouldn't have to believe her testimony. She's just saying it. And obviously people were wondering that there's definitely a conflict of interest involved here. Well, this month, August 1st, Maxwell was transferred from FCI Tallahassee, which was a low-security federal prison, to federal prison camps in Byron, Texas. Now, the thing about these minimum security prisons is that, people have this idea that prison is like the most disgusting place to be in. And that's true, right? Like if you're in a maximum prison like ADX Florence, you never get to see sunlight. You never get to have human contact. It literally is living in hell. But if you live at one of these not low income, but low security facilities, some liken it to a country club, where you just get to live, like you get to live in again, you're still locked in technically, but you're not living like pigs and shit anymore, okay? This is a more comfortable place. Now, should somebody that is a alleged human trafficker, somebody that has been, I guess, convicted at this point, you don't even really need to say the words alleged. If she has a 20-year sentence for this, why the fuck is she at a low-security fucking prison wing? It makes no sense. Why? So, of course, obviously, the deputy attorney, Todd Blanche, literally was actually talking. She provided information, allegedly, apparently, up to like 100 actual individuals connected to this network. And of course, she stated that Trump did literally nothing inappropriate in her presence, which obviously I'll leave up to you if you want to believe it, because hey, maybe she got a sweetheart. Maybe this is her working towards a sweetheart deal. There's a lot of talk of her being pardoned, and even, Trump just said, I can do it.
Consider a pardon or a commutation for Ghislaine Maxwell if
it's something I haven't thought about. It's really something I'm allowed to do it, but it's something I have not thought about.
Not that he actually wants to do it, so far as I know. But again, her making these kind of claims underneath this presidency, you have to imagine, right? There's no way the testimony she's giving, like if she wants to get that pardon, she can't say anything bad against Trump. Like that's just logical, okay? Like what is she gonna do? Is she gonna say like, yeah, he was diddling a whole bunch of people. You think she's gonna get the pardon then? Now if she blames all of his political enemies, maybe she's more likely to get that pardon, which again, people can think like a pardon almost feels like you can buy your way out of a crime. And right now it really does seem like with the amount of people asking about the Epstein files, maybe she might be able to find a way out of this, okay? Because realistically, what's stopping Donald Trump from issuing that pardon? What, a whole bunch of people getting mad? Bro, the guy's entire political aisle is a cult. They'll believe whatever he wants. There's only a few people that I've talked to from that side that are actually holding the dude to task. And now the thing is, obviously, this is the kind of injustice that this organization fought against, but seeing that somebody is living in a country club prison now, possibly on the verge of coming out, is just shocking. And of course, it wasn't just that. Obviously, a side tangent, even like P. Diddy's lawyers, who's also involved in another serious human trafficking case, also got in touch with the presidency. So again, for a party that was built on justice and draining the swamp, they sure as hell have a lot of people coming out begging for clemency. People that have been, accused and convicted in cases of some of the worst crimes imaginable. Now, one of the things that I kind of wanted to end this video off on was obviously with Ghislaine Maxwell, right? Like, there's a lot of things that are poorly covered up. But one thing that came out that I kind of want to talk a little bit about is that on a podcast, it was actually brought up that Ghislaine Maxwell, her custody level was apparently considered out, which meant that in terms of a minimum security campus where she was staying at, you could basically be allowed for work assignments. Now, why would somebody like Ghislaine Maxwell, who probably has good money sitting around her, tons of money, she never has to work again, why the fuck would she need a work assignment? Like, why? Where's she going to go work? Who's going to hire her? There's a big satchel of questions you can ask here. But this program actually reminds me of something that even Epstein had all the way back then, which is absolutely wild. For anybody that doesn't remember, back in 2008, 2009, one of the first sentences that Epstein had gotten in Florida, he was given the most sweetheart deal. So basically, he pled guilty in Palm Beach County to 2 charges, soliciting prostitution and procuring a person under 18 for prostitution. Now, because of these, he was sentenced to 18 months in a Palm Beach County jail. So it wasn't a state prison, it was a county jail. Now, this is where the interesting part comes in. He was given work release as well. Now, the thing about work release is usually, if you're a nonviolent offender, you get this towards the end of your sentence. But he got this literally a few months into the sentence. So what that basically meant was he could leave the jail 6 days a week, about 12 hours a day, and work from his office in West Palm Beach. So basically, you get to be a prisoner, but you get to leave the prison and live some good life. And apparently, investigations show that people had visited him. Young women actually came to his office. So again, was he really incarcerated? I mean, on paper, yeah. But I mean, if I get to leave the prison and enjoy life, and the prison is basically where I sleep, is it really being imprisoned? Are you really actually paying for your fucking crimes? In fact, it actually came out that he had his own private wing in jail, like his actual private wing. He was having his own private security detail when he was outside. Didn't even need the actual government boys. And of course, beyond all of it, he was rarely inside the jail compared to somebody who was actually an inmate. They were both inmates. Epstein just got actual special, super special privileges. And again, the problem is if you're a sex offender, which is what Epstein's crimes were when he was sent to Palm Beach County, he wouldn't be allowed for a work release, yet he got one. And then in 2019, obviously, this was an actual violation that even Palm Beach's sheriff office had actually admitted to. So the thing is, even when it came to his full 18-month sentence, right, he served 13 months, got 5 months for good behavior. I mean, in reality, did he really actually serve any fucking time? This is how corrupt the actual prison system can be. If you've got the money, you've got the connections, congratulations, you don't have to serve jail time. And it makes me wonder, obviously, I don't think Ghislaine Maxwell is going to get a similar deal because she's so high profile. Remember, this is before Jeffrey Epstein was his mugshot was shared around the world. Obviously, I don't think Ghislaine Maxwell is going to come out, but honestly, given the track record of everything going on today, I wouldn't be shocked if even today, after I upload this video, that bitch gets to walk out of jail and fuck around in life. That would be shocking to me. I mean, not really shocking. That would just be something that I expect, given how fucked up the world is these days. But ladies and gentlemen, the Epstein cover-up is actually unraveling. People are asking the questions, people are looking at all this information for themselves, and people are actually deciding that, yeah, the government lied to us. The government is misrepresenting everything. And the best thing you can do is not hold up, not stop talking about it. No matter where you live, you don't have to be an American to care about this. I care about this because I know that people from Canada, people that run my country, were probably involved in this stuff too. And if those people can be stopped, I highly beg, I highly implore some magical thing happens in the United States where people like that face some actual repercussions. But ladies and gentlemen, this is me, Mudahar, and if you like what you saw, please like, comment, and subscribe. Dislike it if you dislike it. I am out.